Canada's vaccine injury support program is under fire for mismanagement in an exposé by Global News, but all of this has been repeatedly revealed through my original reporting dating back 4 years, further exposing how the mainstream media's support for the state-backed, pharma-funded narrative may have contributed to the struggles of countless Canadians. So let's dig in. All right, let's talk about the Liberal-implemented vaccine injury support program called VISP. It was supposed to be a lifeline for Canadians who suffered adverse effects from COVID-19 vaccines, but from day one, it has been a disaster. Delays, denials, and of course, a lack of transparency have plagued this program. And I've been hammering on this story since 2021. Global News now claims credit for exposing this vaccine injury support program mismanagement, but my exclusive access to information requests revealed this bureaucratic failure capped just 6 months after starting with fewer than 5 claims awarded at the time. The feds only budgeted for 400 claims per year, and the program was only scheduled to run until next year, 2026, as though the serious and permanent injury criteria needed to even apply to this program magically disappears after 5 fiscal years. So anyway, I had to appeal the initial redactions, which blacked out basically all of the budgetary information. Instead of scrutinizing this at the time, Global News supported a state-backed pharma-funded narrative, downplaying vaccine manufacturer immunity with headlines that normalized pharma liability indemnification, citing a reassuring national vaccine injury program for rare adverse events. Now, all of a sudden, they're releasing this piece of so-called investigative journalism, noting that despite decades of calls for a vaccine injury support program, the federal government cobbled it together during a pandemic, yet they were literally the ones parroting how good and reassuring this all was in 2021. So don't let them fool you now. These weren't your run-of-the-mill vaccines. They're novel, modified RNA injections that were then mandated by our government before clinical trials were even concluded. Trudeau launched federal mandates in 2021, which then trickled down to provincial and municipal governments and the private sectors. In 2022, then Health Minister Yves Duclos pushed vaccination as the only pandemic solution, backed by $5 million in federal pandemic support for provinces and territories to support things like collecting and sharing public health data that will help fight the pandemic, in case you need some extra help reading in between the lines there. So where was Global News then? Oh, that's right. They were running cover for the state, dismissing and vilifying the brave doctors who were risking everything to expose the COVID response. Like this hit piece from Global News' Ashley Stewart conducting a super secret underground investigation into these sneaky Canadian doctors. She revealed that a small but vocal minority of doctors across Canada were attempting to sway public opinion to oppose COVID-19 vaccines, and that while many are being investigated or have had their medical license suspended, many have not, as though she's like calling for more investigations. Of course, she cites experts who were concerned that these doctors, speaking at rallies and promoting their views in widely shared videos, are lending weight to the anti-vaccine cause, ultimately concluding that they were undermining the COVID fight. So don't let Global News memory hole you now. Well, I was quite literally attending these rallies, going to underground prohibition-style COVID science conferences. Global News' Rachel Gilmore was telling you to ban your unvaccinated relatives from your Thanksgiving dinner tables because breakthrough infections are super rare and these novel biologics were super effective, both of which turned out to be major misinformation claims.
Are you going to invite your unvaccinated relatives to sit at the dinner table with you this Thanksgiving? Experts are saying you might not want to risk it. Here's why. According to one expert from McMaster University, vaccines are super effective, but they're most effective when you're surrounded by other vaccinated people. If you invite someone who isn't vaccinated, there's a risk of having a breakthrough case. Now, breakthrough cases are pretty rare. There's only ever been about 8,000 in Ontario, but kids can't get vaccinated yet. So part of keeping those kids as safe as possible is telling that one uncle who chooses not to get vaccinated that he might have to sit this one out. One bioethicist said that that's actually the more ethical thing to do. She also said you should try talking to your relatives about how safe vaccination is. The best way to do that is to start the conversation from a place of respect and empathy. Say things like, I understand you're feeling pressure. I know you're freaked out, but here's why this is important. You can read more at globalnews.ca.
Had Global News have even been the least bit critical of Big Pharma and the government's waiving of liability for a rushed-to-market product, maybe, just maybe, countless Canadians wouldn't have been killed and or maimed while left out to dry as private consultants get rich. Now, back to Stuart's article for just a moment, because it targets Dr. Patrick Phillips. He's an ER physician from Northern Ontario, or was an ER physician, who reported in May of 2021 that all of his COVID vaccine injury submissions were rejected by the local medical officer, which was the initial step in a multi-layered bureaucratic system for state approval of vaccine injury documentation.
We're also going to miss a lot of those events because they get filtered out before they even make it to the Canadian system, where Canadians can get access to that information. So if you look at the case of the adverse events that happened to my patients, none of those 5 events will even be recorded. So I don't know for sure if they were 100% were caused by the vaccine, although the one that happened within hours, I'm 99% sure. But the fact is, those systems are there to report everything. So then you can look later and see, are they happening more in people who've had the vaccine than in the general population? And that's how you're able to do this population-wide analysis to see if the rates are actually higher among the vaccinated than among the unvaccinated. And that cannot happen when these reports simply just get rejected because they're deemed to not fit these criteria.
I don't even have time to touch on the arbitrary criteria that Dr. Phillips refers to, so please check out that full report if you can, because it has aged oh so well. And sadly, Dr. Phillips lost his license to practice medicine. Yes, even while Ontario has a massive shortage of family doctors, all because he bravely and ethically stood up and spoke out against the COVID hysteria. Now imagine for a moment if Global News had investigated that in May of 2021, where would we be right now? And again, all of this information on VISP was my original reporting and my successful appeal of redacted access to information documents that revealed 60% of the budget allocation for VISP was going to the consultancy firm at the time, Raymond Shabbat Grant Thornton Consultancy, RCGT Inc., which is now called Oxero. I showed how at the time the total budget allocation was $32.3 million, but only $12 million was designated to go to the victims of the safe and effective narrative. The other $20.3 million went to RCGT. I also dug up and exposed how RCGT had developed and marketed a vaccine validation solution to the government, an employee/employer portal marketed as a way to securely review and assess vaccination records for compliance, a page that is now conveniently scrubbed from their website. Can anyone say conflict of interest? By February of 2022, I featured the story of 16-year-old Jasmine Como, a then grade 12 student from Miramichi, New Brunswick, who has been wheelchair bound following her COVID injections. She told me that she immediately felt the liquid go into her arm and run cold throughout her veins. Within minutes, she was experiencing pins and needles in her foot, tightening at the back of her neck, and a headache. So she stuck around at the clinic for roughly 25 minutes, but was ultimately told to go home, rest, and take some Advil. 4 days later, her mother was calling an ambulance when she was unable to walk. People like Jasmine now require extensive 24/7 care and expensive medical equipment. This forced Jasmine's family to convert their dining room into her bedroom and rely on a GoFundMe campaign to manage the mounting financial strain. Where was Global News then? And where was the government that said, "We have your backs, Canadians"?
We're all in this together.
In March of 2022, I also featured the story of a vaccine-injured woman named Diana Hoare, or Kevin Street, in July of 2021. He was the first person to come forward with me about vaccine injury. There was also 16-year-old Kiana, June 2022, who got her shot at school without her parents' knowledge or consent. Catriona Atkins in April of 2022, who coughs so incessantly that she has to wear a diaper due to incontinence. And then there's 16-year-old pericarditis sufferer Josh, who came forward in October of 2021. Global News had all the time in the world to feature any and all of these stories. And then, of course, that brings me to Sean Hartman, the 17-year-old hockey player who just wanted to get back to his beloved sport after nearly 2 years of rolling and forced social isolation. He died 33 days after taking his first Pfizer shot during the time of peak hockey mandates. His dad, Dan Hartman, has an ongoing lawsuit with Pfizer Canada and Health Canada as his battle for justice, for truth, and transparency continues. In April of 2023, I featured Meredith Klitsky, who was sounding the alarm on the nightmare of navigating VISP with mountains of paperwork and also personal knowledge of people seeking government-approved euthanasia known as MAID, or medical assistance in dying, when they could no longer go on. Yes, I also investigated that in November of last year. Where was Global News then? Where were they that same month when at least one Liberal MP advised their constituent not to speak out about the VISP boondoggle with me so as not to compromise their chances of finally getting compensation? Where, I ask, where was Global News? In May of 2021, Canada's Privy Council office issued a memo to develop winning communications strategies to downplay COVID-19 vaccine adverse events and, of course, maintain and uphold public confidence in vaccine safety despite growing injury reports. Global News was playing its part in maintaining that public confidence in vaccine safety, not reporting on those mounting injuries. They were silent when I reported in June of 2023 that Health Canada delayed reinstating a link to its online vaccine adverse events reporting form for nearly 2 years, despite knowing about the confusion that this was causing and the very likelihood that this further exacerbated underreporting of serious COVID-19 vaccine injuries. Global News was silent then, and also silent when I reported on Annabelle Edge's vaccine injury in September of last year, which continues to be mishandled by Toronto Public Health through misleading documentation, leading to her condition being dismissed as psychological, her vaccine injury support program claim being rejected, and once again highlighting the extensive systemic issues in adverse events reporting. Finally, Global News stayed mum when I broke the news that VISP is continually overwhelmed by a high volume of claims. And most alarmingly, last year, that they struggle to calculate compensation for children due to their lack of income history. So yeah, Global News can try to take credit for their headline that federal auditors are now looking into the vaccine injury program, and they made a surprise visit to Oxero. But the Public Health Agency has known about these issues for years because I have sent them separate media requests since the fall of last year. The Vaccine Injury Support Program Administration responded by stating claims are individually assessed by medical experts based on medical records, but provides no specific timelines, discloses no claims, citing privacy, and deflects responsibility for treatment advice, offering little clarity or accountability for its overwhelmed processes. And the Public Health Agency of Canada didn't respond at all, making its oversight a sham, as PHAC should have known about these issues long ago and needs to be audited itself, especially Dr. Tam and others who backed mandates while overlooking COVID-19 vaccine injuries. So what do you guys think? Should Global News get all the credit? Or maybe if they had have spoken up sooner, we wouldn't be in this mess. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. You can check out all of my reports on this topic and sign our petition at nomoreshots.ca. That's nomoreshots.ca.